Hello. Tension. And tonight we checked out the 2003 or 5, I don't know, when movies come out.
Fucking forever ago, like
date
8 decades ago.
Of High Tension. It is directed by Alexandre Aja! That's how you scare someone.
Yeah.
I jump scare.
I was terrified.
Terrified.
You should be a horror director.
Fuck your face. Alright. We checked out High Tension. At my bequest, I believe is what they say. In the
behest.
What'd you just say?
Behest.
Behest. Yes. So it is a French horror movie. One of the new wave of French horror movies. Very violent.
Yes.
Movie. And has a mixed reception in the horror community.
Does it? See, I thought this was a well-regarded movie. I've never seen it until now, though.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason we're doing it, is you wanted to make me watch it.
Yeah. I was interested to see what you would think about this movie.
I've always intended to check it out, and I've always assumed it was a very good one.
Yeah. So, what is it about, first off?
So, 2 girls are heading back to the one girl's family's house. They're in college, I presume. They're gonna go and study and get a weekend away from school and whatever.
Yeah.
But a murderer arrives in the night, and hijinks ensue, and it becomes a fight for survival. And I did really like the tension, especially when you're still at the farmhouse.
Yes.
Because it has this really great setup where she manages to make it so that the killer doesn't know she's in the house. I thought there was a really slick move where she's staying in the guest room and she realizes shit's going down, and she quick makes the bed, cleans up everything so it looks like nobody's been in the room, and hides. So he doesn't know she's there. Most of the rest of the family gets killed. That's not a spoiler.
No, we're spoiling the
that
whole
comes
thing,
out.
though.
Yeah, that comes out. That's pretty early in the movie. And she's trying to save her friend, who's been captured and is presumably going to be enslaved in some fashion.
Yeah, I mean,
but there's this tension where she keeps almost getting found out by the killer, but doesn't quite. The friend knows she's there and trying to do it, but can't say anything because she's gagged. And that tension carries for a significant amount of time, and I quite like that setup.
Yeah, I think that is expertly crafted, that whole sequence.
Yeah,
it's so simple too. That's kind of the beauty of this movie, and this is like a slasher movie in a lot of ways.
And I see how that DNA has followed into a lot of other movies coming down the road. Particularly, what's the one with the blind guy? Don't breathe.
Don't breathe.
Movies like that. There's been a couple movies like that. Isn't there another movie? I didn't see it. It's on Netflix with there's a blind woman, or no, it's a deaf woman.
Hush, yeah.
Okay. Good. Yeah.
This is different in some.
But I think those movies were inspired by this.
Sure. I love this movie. I made my wife watch this when we were dating. I can't believe I made her watch this movie. Now,
and she married you?
I know. I was like looking back on it because this movie is incredible. Especially when I watched this back then, it was ungodly violent. Like, it was not used to something so brutal.
See, now I'm seeing it for the first time at age 35.
Yeah.
And I'm dead inside.
You're desensitized to a lot of the violence.
Yeah, desensitized. I don't feel things anymore because I'm horribly dead inside.
Yes.
So it was violent, but there's also been a lot more violent movies since then.
Right. So, but back then, I think I did watch this in like 2005 or so. Mm-hmm. Wasn't ready for this kind of violence. Even being a horror fan my whole life, I wasn't expecting it.
Especially when you think about like 90s horror movies when they were particularly bloody and gory. They were always like cartoonishly so.
This is not that. And that's what a lot of these French movies, the New Wave French, are. They're incredibly bleak and extreme in their violence. So it's visceral and there's no hope in any of these movies.
I would bet.
So it's not fun, I guess is what my point is.
What's Jeremy Saulnier is probably inspired by this kind of movie for sure.
Yeah, with his violence, the way it's so abrupt, and this movie has an awesome look. I think it's shot on film, which certainly helps. But it's so like everything about it is so like anti-Hollywood to me because like the lighting isn't like Hollywood lighting. You know what I mean? No. It's like subdued, realistic in a lot of ways. Maybe like half the time just lit with.
But they're definitely going for a very particular look.
The other thing that really stuck out to me watching it this time was I watched it with headphones on, and the fucking sound design is so good. One, because they introduced the killer, and he has these like leather boots on and stuff, and you just...
That goes a long way to building a high amount of tension.
It's so fucking good, right?
Yeah.
So, I think of what rubs people I think what rubs people the wrong way about this movie is the ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did it work?
So I will say I loved the experience of watching this movie. It was great. There's so much about it that's well done. But yeah, I did not. There's a very Shyamalanian twist to this movie that I did not love.
Why?
Because, and I haven't gone back and rewatched this movie, so I'm curious to know if you would agree with this statement, having rewatched it multiple times, that I feel like most of this movie doesn't make sense in the way that I would want it to, knowing if you already know the ending.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler: the ending is she's the actual killer the whole time.
Yeah, she's
and what I think
the
a lot of the
killer.
audience,
The killer's Tyler Durden.
A lot of people have with the problem with the audience was like, well, then where did the truck come from, or where did the head come from, and all this shit.
How many of these scenes
Where-
don't make logical sense?
Because you want to see, okay, so she's the killer, but then take her out and replace her as the killer. It still doesn't make sense, right?
So you just have to accept that she's a bit of an unreliable narrator, and that is a perfectly acceptable way to tell the story, but I don't love it personally.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch the beginning of the movie, it's her sitting in the mental ward after. The opening of the movie is her saying, she has some mantra she says, like, I won't let anybody, whatever. It's,
I won't let anyone come between us anymore.
I won't let anybody come. And it keeps repeating that, and then it opens with her in the mental ward. You see her scars on her back. The camera comes on, and she says, like, something, are you ready for my story, or something like that.
See, I don't remember that at all.
Nobody remembers that. And I didn't either. And then,
it doesn't make any sense. You don't know who the character is. You don't know how it's relevant. And even by the time you get to them in the car traveling, I don't think I made any connection between those two things. I distinctly remembered the line, because I didn't know what that meant, and I was curious, but I don't remember that visual
I
at
think
all.
you could remember the opening mantra, and maybe, she starts in the hospital, but to remember that one single line about, like, are you recording or something?
I don't even
But that is so pivotal to, like, bringing it all together,
I don't even remember
right?
the hospital.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a fault of the director and the creator of the movie, I think, in a lot of ways, because you don't remember that piece.
Maybe it is helpful for you to forget that, though.
Well, then
maybe it helps more on a subsequent watch.
you get involved in the plot, and
so you have an unreliable narrator, so the events of the movie may not even happen. Whereas, as somebody who's seen Fight Club before, I'm waiting for the moment where you start to put it together. Where in this scene, if you just shift the camera perspective, you better understand. There's a pinch of that, just a pinch.
But I don't think that's intended. It's never supposed to be...
No, I don't think they're trying to do that.
You're never getting a bird's eye view of what happened. You're always hearing her telling the story.
Yeah.
And that's how she sees it in her head.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories like that, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but I don't like that as much, so...
Yeah, I get that. I didn't mind it so much. I think because all the other aspects, I think, are so well done. And I still think, like, if you take that out of this movie, then it is just a mindless killing movie, like Terrifier or something, where it's fun in some ways, but it has no no lasting thought to it or any kind of thought to it.
To me, this feels a little bit like a Jeremy Saulnier movie if you made it in 2003, when you're still looking at Shyamalan and some of his biggest movies have come out in recent years, and you're trying to find your big twist, and I don't think it needs the twist.
The difference for me with the Jeremy Saulnier comparison is that this movie is way more bleak than a Jeremy Saulnier movie is. While Blue Ruin is bleak, there's moments.
I mean, some of them are bleak and some of them aren't, but they all have that very violent tendency. I assume High Tension, he'd list that as a reference point, if not an inspiration.
There's Dean Koontz book called Tension.
Okay.
I think, or Intensity or something like that.
Sure.
That came out before this, that has basically the exact same plot line. That's interesting.
You want to know why I don't believe you even a little bit?
Why?
Because it's a book. And you
haven't read. No,
you don't read books.
I believe they made like a
audiobook?
TV version, an audiobook. I listen to books. There's nothing wrong with that. The thing that stuck out to me watching this movie again was the amount of Muse in this movie.
Muse?
Jason Muse?
Muse, Jason Muse wasn't... Oh, okay. See, I didn't recognize
from
the band
like one of their old albums, like one of their albums that I actually kind of like.
Okay.
And it was like, doesn't fit at all to me.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One thing that kind of confused me for a long time while watching this movie also was the relationship between Marie and Alexia, because it never explicitly stated what the relationship was. Like, it was just ambiguous enough that you could think that they're lovers, or that they're just friends.
No, how dare you?
Because there's a few weird things that Marie says that I'm like, that Okay, well, that sounds like something more like a couple would say, but not Alexia at all.
Maria
but
is the short-haired woman.
Yes.
She pines for Alexia.
Yes,
She's
which
in
I
love with her.
eventually understood at the end of the movie. That was not clear to me at all at the beginning of the movie.
I mean,
I was very confused about like what the relationship between the two girls was.
I think they set that up fine because Alexia
Okay.
keeps going off about how she's she's interested in this guy, but he's dating some Brazilian girl and all this stuff, and she keeps talking about men and doing and Maria keeps bringing up how, and they keep talking about how she's not like going after men, and like you can kind of see it, and then you see her watching her get naked and stuff.
That would have been yeah.
So I think they set that up clear enough. I do have a problem, especially probably nowadays, where it's like, oh, but like she's gonna kill all these people because she has a problem with her own sexuality. Like, is that what the problem is? Like, and that's not cool in some ways. I don't know.
If that's what you're trying to say, that's not cool. I don't think they were trying to say
I don't
that.
think
that's one of those things. It's like an unintentional thing the piece says.
It's a fun movie, in some ways.
It is a fun movie.
I like it quite a bit, but I could see not liking the ending and ruining for you, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd still recommend it though. I don't know if you'd still want to watch it after we spoiled it, but it's good. It's well executed. It's very well executed.
Yeah, he went on to, he's still making good movies. He made that Crawl movie.
Crawl was on my top 10 last year.
I really enjoyed the remake of The Hills Have Eyes. I don't really like the original very much, so.
I have an opinion on any of them.
And the remake kind of pulls a lot of the violence that this showcases into that, so it's very graphic. There's also, I should just mention, there's a bunch of homages to other horror movies. There's like the Texas Chainsaw thing. You got The Shining kind of when she does the axe.
Yeah.
But yeah, High Tension. Check it out. It's free on Tubi. So there's no reason not to check it out. And you don't have to leave a comment below like you do in all of our podcast episodes, like, where can I watch this fucking movie? Well, I just fucking told you. So there you go. All right. That's going to do it. We'll catch you here next time. Good.
Sweet darling, goodbye.
I don't know what that was. I just wanted to harm me.